Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk. Now, is Quant basically creating economies? Well, if anything, it seems like they are because what they're able to bring to the table with ISO 222 and so on. But not only that, when you really look into it, they are also securing the internet, especially this phase of the internet with Web3. So without further ado, let's get into today's coverage with Quant. So again, shout out to this particular person, Quant underscore Papa is his Twitter handle. Does really great coverage when it comes to these particular small clips and some other articles he brings up and so on. I have, as of lately, been covering quite a bit of what he's been sharing because let's face it, it's really great info, and especially on Quant. So we're going to take a moment to reflect and hear what Gilbert Verdin has outlined here. But my key takeaway before we get more into that is some of the things he mentions. Setting that standard. On the previous Quant video that we covered here at CTN, it basically outlines just that. You have, for instance, like the Bank of France, a top person from there and so on, reaching literally out to Gilbert and the rest of Quant, basically stating we are already aware of what Quant can do, what they can offer, and instead of Gilbert coming back and saying, you know what, yeah, I'm glad that you guys can recognize it, but we need you to be more compatible with us, so get with your devs and so on and make that happen to be compatible with us. No, he realizes that it has to be the other way around. It has to be where Quant is already compatible, aka interoperable, right? With all these other blockchains and so on. And that's what makes it so attractive. And on top of that, you're also going to hear about what he's done back in 2016 with ISOs, and how basically Quant is setting the standard. And if anything, realizing that the standard is definitely coming up in March. Not just the standard, but let's face it, the mandate, right? And taking advantage of that, it's tremendous. So like it says right here, creating economies. I think there's like 50 plus countries that are on board for this, recognizing Quant's technology and taking advantage of that. So let's take a brief moment, about 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes, and we'll be right back.
How do we have a blockchain overlay that can interconnect different networks and different systems? I started talking about it from a government perspective. The standards people approached me and they said, this is really interesting. Can we turn this into an ISO standard? And what that means is standards create economies, because you're allowing people to communicate and talk the same language. And in financial services, in payments and all the messaging systems, ISO 20022 is the standard. The old one was 8583, which is the old payments standard that everyone's been using, like Visa, MasterCard, etc. But it's evolving into ISO 20022. So for me, it was a great way to define and fix the problem with blockchains, because I had a problem with the way the ecosystem was growing, because we were making great technology, proof of work, proof of stake. We had great adoption because Ethereum was quite big at the time. Ripple had just started, so there was some aspirational things, but they were making all this technology in isolation. And I didn't want everyone to make that mistake again, because we made that mistake with the old internet service providers of the first internet, where you had an account with one ISP, you couldn't talk to anyone else. You were stuck with CompuServe, you were stuck with AOL, for example. So I didn't want the industry to make that mistake again. So I established the ISO standard back in 2015, did all the work, and we got it approved. And in early 2016, it kicked off April 2016 as the first plenary. So that was a great way to bring interoperability, security, privacy, smart contracts, governance, all of those important topics that make blockchain work with each other to the global playing field. And now, today, there's 57 countries and organizations working together to do this. So there's a huge push behind standards. And this is the future. Standards is going to enable the mass adoption and the mass implementation of blockchain, because people can trust the technology.
So a few key things I just basically, again, I want to outline for you guys some of the things that he mentioned just right there in that particular clip. And that is, for instance, creating an ISO standard back in 2015. I know a lot of you guys, when you look at Quant and so on, let's face it, you're into other tokens and coins that are ISO 222 compliant, so on, and rightfully so. But when you hear about, for instance, he created, the ISO standard back in 2015, and you see where everything else is going, especially here soon, coming up in March, right? We're all hoping, of course, a lot of it would have been mandated for, November and so on. You got to keep in mind, only certain financial sectors or banks and so on have voluntarily decided to get on it. But as far as the quote unquote mass adoption of that, right, is definitely going to start out first in March of 2023 and going further from there, right? But to hear him again mention how Quant is basically setting that standard, and it's just that ISO 222, the standard in that itself, and how he broke down, he gave you some comparisons, right? Like in the past, like with Visa and MasterCard and whatnot, how that, that was its own written language from the old model, right? We're now into this new model, and how, as far as mass adoption, how we get to mass adoption is through these particular financial sectors. Again, I think that's the key takeaway from here. Of course, we're going to have some more coverage for you, but if anything, my thing is, it's just that so much focus, of course, from the retail side of it and so on, and I get that. But as far as, like, I was mentioned before on countless videos, as far as mass adoption, it definitely would come from not the retail side, but from the financial sector side of things. All right, so a little bit more in regards to this. Again, this is straight from Quant Papa. Once again, Quant, securing the internet, right? So, there's always so much talk about, for instance, like the likes of XRP and so on. And, don't get me wrong, I'm an XRP fan as well, but it's the whole concept. I think a lot of times people hear the terminology of, this particular blockchain that's ISO 222 compliant and so on has, this super fast TPS, and, there's this particular one that, does it even that much faster. And of course, there's so much emphasis on speed, and rightfully so, but there also at the same time has to be emphasis on the security of that. So, like he mentions here, it's basically like securing the internet. What is that going to entail, and what is that all about? Let's listen to this particular outline of just that, and we'll come right back.
Change in society. Like, we actually benefit from going digital, that we can't operate without the internet today, and we're so dependent on it. But we've got an issue of trust, and that's what we're solving.
Okay. Building digital trust and a secure internet.
Think about the internet. The original architecture of the internet is flawed. And so the original actual flaw of the internet is because you needed to know everyone on the network, and you knew everyone on the network because there was a small ARPANET network between institutions and military and government. And so if something went wrong, you knew the guy, you would give him a call, and you have a chat and say what's happened. So the problem we face is the internet grew from the 50s, and the architecture decisions that were made back then could not foresee how the internet is used today. And so the foundation of the internet's broken. And so we've actually, as a cybersecurity industry, we've been trying to patch the internet by putting layers on top of other layers of security controls and protocols and firewalls and all the technology, but it's still broken down in the foundation, because the flaw is you need to know the people you're transacting with. So what we're doing from our perspective is re-architecting the internet. This time doesn't come often, it's every 30 years that this reset can happen. And so we're looking to re-architect the internet where you can trust people you don't know, because you can trust the network again.
Digital trust and a secure internet.
Absolutely. And if you think about humans and society, we operate in networks. We have our social network, our family networks, work, trade networks, and the internet is another network that we use to communicate and collaborate. And the problem we've got is we've lost trust in the network. And networks flourish when they interconnect. If you remember the old days, in the .com days, you had AOL, Prodigy, you had all the walled gardens of isolated proprietary networks. When we connected them up, we had the internet of today. We have Facebook and Google and Amazon and all those things happen. So we can't be siloed. We can't be closed off from each other. We need that as a society, and we need that for our networks. And so that's what we've set out to solve, and we've done that. We've solved interoperability at scale. We didn't build blockchain. We didn't want to build another blockchain. We've built an operating system.
So think about what he just said right there. I mean, everything outlined that, right? Re-architecting the internet. Think about the value of re-architecting, doing all that with the internet and so on. So if anything, I mean, my key takeaway is, how do you put a value on re-architecting the entire internet? We're in this, of course, Web3 phase. When you explain Web3 to somebody, especially, like, let's face it, the average, I don't know, person who's not even into crypto and so on, they're not going to quite understand the concept of re-architecting the internet or Web3. As the saying goes, people simply don't know what they don't know, right? So going a little bit more further into this, this was really, really key. And I saw this particular statement right here, or I should say from these documents. Let's take pause to look more into it. Like it says, nothing to see here. It is quite a bit to see here, to say the least. So, if anything, I mean, look at where you see some of this, right? Key takeaway towards the bottom, right? Quant, Ripple, right? Think about the likes of XRP. On top of that, think about all this. Quant, the interoperability, who they're connected with, the big players. These are nobody that's small time. So HSBC and IBM successfully test multi-ledger CBDCs, bonds, and so on. You literally see the outline of what is to be coming and the technology that is backing that. All right. So HSBC, like I mentioned, is one of the world's largest foreign exchange banks, and IBM are leading, which is a leading provider of consulting services and technology, of course, to the financial sectors. You see some of the highlights without even clicking on the particular articles. HSBC and IBM create a successful multi-ledger CBDC demo. That's all coming here. It's coming here rapidly, fast, a lot quicker than I think most people are literally expecting, right? So HSBC and IBM conduct successful CBDCs experiments on cross-cloud environment. Again, this collaborative group of big players coming together. Why? Because of the technology that is basically behind it and so on, realizing, that, let's face it, I mean, whether you're for CBDCs and so on, it's the technology that's behind it, I think, is the main key takeaway. And I don't think people have grasped that enough. A little bit more in regards to this and how it's going to be, of course, related to Quant. It says, on Thursday, HSBC and IBM announced the successful test of an advanced token and digital wallet settlement between two central bank digital currencies, aka CBDCs, in a cloud environment. The experiment consisted of transactions between CBDCs, e-bonds, and Forex. IBM's Hyperledger Fabric and enterprise technology provider R3 Corda served as the basis of the distributed ledger facilitating the transactions. And then in regards to how this is all connected to Quant, well, it's literally outlined just like what you see right here. Multi-ledger tokens, MLTs, basically minting multi-DLT stablecoins from fiat, sorry, some people tell me I'm not even pronouncing it right. Fiat, tomato, right? So it said, who's it for? Central banks, fintechs, trading, consortia, closed-loop payments, marketplaces, and micro-payment platforms. But in regards to actually how this is all tied into the likes of, for instance, Quant, look at this key thing mentioned here on how it basically works. So the funds, of course, held in escrow, and with a financial institution and tokens to the same value are issued, quote, minted, right, on a private DLT. These funds can then be used on any DLT or mixture of DLTs, public or private, and Quant patented multi-ledger token, aka MLT, technology is applied. This ensures that wherever the tokens are used, changes of ownerships are basically recorded on an original DLT, and a clear, audible record is maintained. Now listen to this. The nature of MLT means that the tokens are open and can be used on new and different DLTs as they emerge or as use cases grow. This opens up the walled gardens of many e-money solutions. Think about that in itself. E-money solutions. Now, here's some particular examples of just that. So it says this quote unquote quant, yes, quant solution implements the IMF's semi-decentralized model for central bank digital currency, aka CBDCs. It also enables the simple and flexible implementation of synthetic CBDC and can be used by banks as a more flexible type of stablecoin. This last part is another key thing before we start wrapping things up, and that is, in addition to working well with loyalty and voucher platforms as a form of open and enhanced e-money, the solution also applies to digitized supply chains where cross-border bank payments, right? Think about that in itself, lack speed and transparency. By using MLTs to represent the various currencies, it is quick and easy to send and receive funds with real-time status visibility. Quant is literally connecting everything on a massive scale. When we make the statement that Quant is literally going to be the Bitcoin, the new Bitcoin, it's just that. I get a lot of content creators will come out and make a bunch of statements. This is the new Bitcoin. That's the new Bitcoin, and so on. Quant literally is, because it's the one that has the utility, a less circulating supply, less max supply, and total supply. Really impressive stuff. So a little bit more, and that is this, what you see right here. I don't know about you guys, but I took advantage of the dip. There was a market crash down to, I think it was even lower than this, down to 970. I was trying to get things sorted, of course, with some KYC, but nonetheless, this was down even further from what you see right here. I took advantage of the dips, and if anything, a lot of things were on sale, but in particular, just like you see, Quant. So I came in at the time at with fees about 149. You know, I didn't think this was going to go down further than 150. I took advantage of those particular quote-unquote sales. Again, it's not official financial advice to you, but of course, I feel as though that eventually we are going to be just what? Priced out of Quant. Can you put a real value on Quant? I know quite a few people have, and I know from your perspective, not you specifically, well, let's face it, a lot of people, they look at the likes of Quant and they say to themselves, I don't see how in the world that market cap can get up to 103,000 and so on. You think that's crazy? How about this? Some people got Quant in the future valued at over $1 million per coin. I know, this sounds nuts. But again, think about this. Can you put an accurate number on the mass adoption that these central banks of the world are literally coming into? I saw one, I know this is a Quant video, but for the likes of Ripple's XRP, even lowballing at 10% at $1,200 per coin, and that is seriously being conservative about it. Again, how are people going to realistically put a true value on this particular technology when they're going to re-architect the internet? Are you kidding me, Quant? Pretty massive. All right, so guys, that's it for today's particular video on the likes of Quant. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. By all means, check out the live show, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The exception, if you live in Arizona, like myself, we don't have daylight savings time and so on. So, for instance, we have gone from 6 p.m. start time to a 7. But for everybody else, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for watching today's video. Check out the Crypto Talk Now network app at cryptotalknow.net. Thanks again. You all have a blessed day, and we'll see you on the next one.